Arsenal 2, Liverpool 2. The big winners from today, probably Manchester City. Hello, everyone. Mark Donaldson, Janusz Mihalik, Luis Miguel Echegaray. Probably a better point for Liverpool, Janusz. Twice behind and twice coming back. But was it a fair result overall?
Before the game, I felt that neither side could afford to lose, given what Manchester City are doing at the moment, right? And so there's a draw, but for sure, I think Arsenal would feel that they dropped 2 points. For me, they were clearly the better team. First half, for sure. Second half, there are moments, of course, that Liverpool came into it. Only probably Mo Salah could have done what he did ultimately in the end, because nobody else on this Liverpool side showed that there were any dangers throughout the game. And he's got history, right, against Arsenal. Mo Salah does. But I think if you Arsenal, on one hand, you love the rebound from that loss against Bournemouth. But I think ultimately all the changes, all the injuries ahead and during the game, maybe they just unsettled them and they pay the price to a great player that Mo Salah is.
Yeah, we'll get to the goals shortly. LME, Arsenal ended up with a back four of Kivior, White, Lewis Skelly, and also at the back, Thomas Partey. So you look at that and you go, yeah, it's not ideal, but when you're 1-0 up and you're 2-1 up, does that feel a bit like a missed opportunity for the Gunners today?
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with Janusz. I think that this is a game where I think Arsenal played better. And actually, it says a lot about Arne Slot and Liverpool, that you can be disjointed, Mohamed Salah quiet for the majority of the game, things were not working out. And yet, when you look at the statistics, both had the same attempts. And there's a little bit of a up and down in terms of possession, but Liverpool were a little disjointed, but they come out of it with a point. So Liverpool would definitely be the happier of the two. But like you said, I think Manchester City is really the one sitting back and enjoying this one. Look, I do want to say something, because right after we do this show, I do a recap for ESPN Deportes, and I was ready, MD. I was writing it down and making it all sorted, saying this is the most valuable performance from Arsenal this season. Maybe not the greatest, but the most valuable, right? No William Saliba, as you mentioned, injuries back and forth, playing a Liverpool that was just killing it throughout the campaign. And boom, here comes Mohamed Salah and they score. And I think that's what says two things. One, about just the fine margins of this Premier League and how you really have to be on it. Even if you're not playing well, you have to be on it and make sure that you deliver. And two, again, I repeat myself, when you are playing somebody like Liverpool right now, even when they're not playing well, they're going to come and haunt you. And I think that Liverpool ultimately will come out of London, traveling back to Liverpool, thinking that, look, we got a point out of this. And Arsenal, I agree with Janusz again, they really are going to kick themselves in the foot here, because you really played a good game, and 3 points probably would have been a deserved result for you.
Yeah, well, they took the lead after 9 minutes, Bukayo Saka. That was one of the narratives in the build-up to this game. Janusz, there were people outside hotels on Bukayo Saka watch. Is he there? Should we put him in our fantasy Premier League side? I mean, this isn't Inspector Gadget. This ain't Clouseau or anything like that. I mean, he played, he wasn't 100%, and he opened the scoring after 9 minutes. He just does that so well, doesn't he?
Well, he's the best player that Arsenal have by far, right? No argument there, I suppose. And that's how important he is. We often talk about the squad of Arsenal, or maybe the lack of depth, right? If he wasn't here today, it's a totally different team as well. And but those are not excuses. They happen to recover him, but they understand this league. And LME, you're quite right. And so for Arsenal, I think they'll be disappointed to a degree, but a point is a point here, because you look at Manchester City. I mean, how can you possibly talk about injuries and not having a player or two when you look at Manchester City, who maybe are not at their absolute best, and they're missing De Bruyne and Rodri, two players that walk into either Arsenal or Liverpool eyes closed, right? So this is how difficult this challenge is, and that's why this point is valuable just as much as for Liverpool, because they didn't perform, but for Arsenal as well, because this is going to be that race. Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester City. Losing all points here for Arsenal, which was quite possible. Just imagine that, right? I mean, they have Newcastle, Inter, that's not Premier League, and Chelsea away. 3 away games right now. So I don't know. I mean, they would have been much, much happier, obviously, with the 3 points here and the momentum going into a stretch like that.
Okay, the equalising goal. Only Southampton and Wolves have conceded more goals from set plays than Arsenal. That's the fourth time they've conceded. And you can talk about the defence that they had. The other three times they had Saliba and they had Gabriel at the back. So it's a good delivery from Trent. But when you see Luis Diaz making the run to get in front of the near post marker, then to flick it on, and Virgil van Dijk does what Virgil van Dijk does very well. What is the issue, the biggest issue, LME, that Arsenal have when it comes to not being able to stop set plays from ending up in the back of the net?
Yeah, I think I think the answer is within the beginning of that question, where not being able to pick up the runner early on. And was it Kai Havertz, I think, that was meant to follow Lucho Diaz? And clearly it's a good corner from Trent Alexander-Arnold, but it's happened more often than not where they're not awake enough in set pieces, specifically in corners. You have to be a little bit faster in order to pick up. Now, William Saliba's absence, I think, is part of this. He's a very vocal person when they're trying to defend this, but it's happened more often than not. And it's funny because on the other side of the coin, I know that you haven't talked about the second goal, but Mikel Merino's goal means that they've scored more set piece goals than anybody in the Premier League. So offensively, they're doing well. Yeah. Defensively, they really have to be on it and they have to be quick. And also, for all the praise that we give David Raya, and deservedly so, I wonder if maybe he needs to be more vocal in these corner situations. But I don't want to take anything away from them. Yeah. That was a really smart corner. It was very quick. It was very quick, and it was a great opportunity for them, because they do that all the time. But they may not score all the time for corners, but they're very mobile and they're very quick on it. Those short corners, flicking it back. It was good. It was a good corner.
Team game. Martinelli lets him go. Lets him get in front of Havertz. Now Havertz.
Yeah, Martinelli. So it's not Havertz.
Well, no. Havertz was there on the near post, but initially the run that was made, Martinelli was on him, and he's got to either communication or stay with him or bump him so he doesn't get in front of Havertz. Havertz obviously was ball watching, but sometimes that happens on the near post. You're hoping that the players that are going to be running in front of you in your sight. So it's not just one player. I think Martinelli. Everybody's talking about Havertz, and that's fair. Made a mistake, but Martinelli for me just as guilty.
Janusz, what about Arsenal's second goal? Marino, as LME's talking about, they're very good, Arsenal, from trying to score from set plays. For me, the quicker we get semi-automated offsides into the Premier League, the better. That took far too long to confirm the goal.
It did. That's why, I don't know if this is a good time, but Major League Soccer, I like that, right? I mean, when in doubt like this, they don't draw lines. When it's that close, you sort of let it go because it's impossible. They probably tried every which way. I am telling you, I'm convinced they didn't know it. We didn't see any lines being drawn there, right? Normally they show the line and where it is. It was that close that they chose probably not to do it.
There was one.
Yeah, sort of for half a second, and then
exactly.
And they withdrew that very, very quickly. So again, I think that goal should have stood because it was that close. So why bother in similar situation when it's so close? But yeah, semi-automated is going to come in. Do I trust that? I don't even know what that means. Why can't this one catch it? And the semi-automated will somehow magically tell us now that, oh, yeah, for sure, that's good. I don't get any of that. But I'm glad that stood. The delivery was, superb. You can't defend that. No. Right? It was superb delivery and great header from Mikel Merino.
So it's 2-1 at half-time. LME and Arne Slot's probably feeling there wasn't much in that. You've given off the stats. I think 7 shots for each team. One had 4 on target, the other had 3, and it was the other way around for the off-target shots. So there's very little. Liverpool have had slightly more possession. But maybe when you're feeling a little bit hard done by, that you don't feel like you deserve to be down at the half, but you are, what would you do? What do you think Arne Slot has done to kind of make sure these players stay in the moment and don't get too down on themselves?
Yeah, I think the good thing is that, and that's why we began with this by saying that, at this Arne Slot Liverpool, when they're not playing well, they're finding ways to get something out of it. And it's because they're either in control or looking for control. And again, I always parrot myself by saying this: if you don't have the majority of possession, it doesn't mean that you're not in control. At least if you have a shape and you're confident enough to know what you can do when you have it, then maybe that can continue on. So I think at halftime, Arne Slot said, guys, listen, we're a little disjointed here. We're a bit quiet. We're not quick enough in the final third. But this is going to come. All you need to do at this moment is just make sure that it doesn't get to a situation where we're down by 2 or whatever. Just hold it. And listen, Ibrahima Konate to me is one of the most underrated center backs in Europe. And he's not perfect, but my God, he does a lot to make sure that he helps Virgil van Dijk and Liverpool maintain that thin margin. Because I think what Arsenal did really well for a long periods of the time is they didn't let Mohamed Salah or Lucho Diaz, aside from that great nutmeg to Thomas Partey, they didn't allow them to be one-on-ones. Like, there was a lot of doubling up. But as the game continued, Liverpool realized that. So when Salah got the ball or Lucho got the ball, then they were quicker to pass the ball centrally, and maybe it'd be a little quicker. So the main thing for Arne Slot was this: it's 2-1 right now. Let's just keep pulling it, hold our shape, don't let it be 3-1, and we'll get there. And they did.
54th minute, Janusz. Gabriel is forced off through injury, so Kivior comes on. Do you think when Arne Slot looks back on this game, he'll maybe be a little bit frustrated that they didn't pose more issues and more problems for what was now, with Saliba already suspended, a makeshift Arsenal back four?
Of course. I mean, there's some issues. I mean, you look at Liverpool where they are now, results is good. We understand that Arne Slot is different, but even in our commentary, you heard it, lack of intensity, for sure, right? There was no questions about that. Look, no surprise that in the first half, Arsenal dominated in the wide areas, right? I mean, they do that well, but they also dominated in the center of the pitch. I mean, for Liverpool, there was absolutely nothing. And the concern that Slot will have is, at least in my opinion, that Liverpool, in a way, it's easy to read because they really attack with just the 3 front players. Remember the best of times, I'll remind you of your countrymen, Andy Robertson, and then on the other side, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Remember that one season when they had 14, 12, whatever it was, each assist. Mm-hmm. You look at Liverpool right now, Trent Alexander-Arnold, I don't know if he's already playing for Real Madrid or not, but 0 goals, 1 assist in the Premier League. Andy Robertson, 0 goals, 1 assist. Same goes, I think, actually in the Champions League as well. Obviously, less games. I mean, this was the strength of Liverpool at their best because they were able to double. They were able to help their wide players, overlap the wide players, deliver crosses. I mean, Trent, granted, on the tying goal, that ball over the top was great, but that's nowhere near enough. Andy Robertson, I mean, that was a horror show, wasn't it, against Saka in the first half? So what I'm trying to tell you, and I'm sure Slot recognizes that there's only so many times that you can rely on Mo Salah to put a rabbit out of a hat, because that's exactly what happened here. Curtis Jones, the best player for Chelsea in the last game, you know what? He had 98% passing accuracy in today's game. Do you remember one pass that was dangerous? Because I don't. No. I mean, he had 45 passes that were good or something like that. Tremendous if you look at the stats. Nothing else. The best player by far in the Chelsea game for Liverpool, I'm saying that. So I think there's some issues. I mean, it's good to have issues and be second in the table point behind, and Liverpool are a fine team. But I think if you remember the Chelsea game and this game, weren't great performances from Liverpool, were they?
No, and look, I've seen Andy Robertson at his best. You've spoken about when him and Trent were giving assist after assist, bombing forward, getting to the byline, cutting it back. I'm not sure that he's even the best option right now, because Tsimikas came on and looked all right again. But when he is playing and when Trent's playing, and to follow up what Janusz is saying, LME, because they're more pragmatic now under Arne Slot, there's less emphasis. I mean, we saw Trent getting forward, inverted fullback under Jurgen Klopp. It's a different style. What can he do to get, as Janusz was suggesting, his fullbacks more involved? Or is it just the way Arne Slot is? This is how the fullbacks play, and so be it.
I think that's more it, to be honest, because we have had this discussion where, especially focusing more on Trent Alexander-Arnold, he is being used more as a conventional right back. And I think in this scenario, I think he's taken more one for the team here. I agree, obviously, when we saw those great numbers from an assist perspective. It was great to see him bomb forward, but that's just not his role anymore, or at least not for the majority of what it was. Now there's more of a, as you mentioned, pragmatism when it comes to Liverpool. Look, I want to come back to this again. They did not play well today, and yet they came out of Emirates Stadium with a point. True. Like, so, so now it's about looking forward and saying, how can we improve? So there's going to be games in this season where Liverpool are not going to play well. I mean, they lost to Forest, they learned their lesson, and now they come away from a point against an Arsenal team who really worked very hard to try and get something out of it. So it wasn't a good game. I don't think that you're going to see this like gung-ho, all weapons blazing Trent Alexander-Arnold going forward every single time, because of the system that Arne Slot wants to play. I will say, though, that there will be opportunities when Liverpool are more in controlling matches, when we look at the schedule, that you hopefully will see more of an attacking option. But as of right now, no, don't expect TAA 3.0 and get him to like 10, 15 assists. That's just not going to happen.
And to be fair, today wasn't the type of game you're hoping for your fullbacks.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because they've got a job to do protecting, especially against the likes of Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli on the other side. That's something, as Janusz quite rightly said, it's something moving forward Arne Slot can look at. Can they get them more involved? But today, you're right, Elemi. Today was about Liverpool not being at their best and still getting a point. And they got the point, Janusz, 9 minutes from time. I'll say 9 minutes from time. 9 minutes from the end of normal time, because there's so much added time these days. Earlier today, Cole Palmer didn't get the assist for his ball to Neto, who then fed Nicholas Jackson. And it was a brilliant pass, as was Trent's forward. Nunez, he didn't even need to take a touch. He was able to find Mohamed Salah. What I love about this goal is, I don't know if you can teach this, Mohamed Salah just knows. It's just instinct. Whenever he sees that ball played down the right channel by Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he knows it's not for him, he automatically just goes into the middle. And it's a good ball, and he scores the equalising goal. I thought it was a really nice goal all round, Janusz.
Yeah, it was a pretty same goal as a Saka scored for Arsenal, right? You know, I mean, if you fall asleep, if you lack experience a little bit, I mean, Robertson has the experience. You know, if you look at Lewis Scully, who just got thrown into the game, you know, that's a little bit different, right? You sometimes pay the price for these things. And yeah, as I've said before, Trent had that one play. Maybe that's, you know, maybe that's all that matters, right? I mean, sometimes you don't have a great game, but that one play is important and gets you that point as well. So those are good goals, although preventable, right? Because you don't really want one ball to beat your entire team. Whereas you've mentioned, without taking a touch, you square the ball and you give the opportunity to Mo Salah. So I mean, it looks good for Liverpool. Looks really, really terrible defensively for Arsenal, who for most of the games did a great job defensively on Liverpool.
Elemi, when you're 2-1 up and you're protecting a lead, should they not have been a little bit better defensively? Because they got done by one through ball from Trent. And as much as it was a good goal, it wasn't a good goal to concede defensively. And you've got Kivior, and you've got the others. You've got Partey, and you've got Lewis Skelly, who's come on. Could they have done more as far as protect what they had? Because as much as it was a good goal from Liverpool to score, it wasn't a great goal to concede from Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think we've given slight criticism to Kivior in the past as well. You know, it's unfair when you look at the other weapons that Arsenal have. But I think the Gabriel injury also impacted, you know, not just the actual substitution, but also the way that Arsenal needed to defend. And sometimes this can be an Arsenal issue. It's kind of similar to the same field as when we were talking about the red card against Bournemouth. Sometimes, what are you willing to do here? Protect what you have or keep going forward? The problem is when you have the likes of Mohamed Salah on one side and Lucho Diaz on the other one, it can be a little bit dangerous. So, yes, I agree. And again, you know, the absence of somebody like Martin Odegaard continues to be a hole. But these things happen, and overall, when you play somebody like Liverpool, they're going to pounce you. And you mentioned that great goal from Mohamed Salah. That was done in rapid speed. And if you're not on it, you're not going to be on it. It's something that Mikel Arteta has to continue to do. And again, I was writing this thing, Arsenal were ready to win it. They didn't do it. And they're going to have to learn that as they go on forward, especially against the big boys.
Let's wrap this up. We're less than a quarter of the way through, still in its infancy, so it's a small sample.